Have you ever just sat alone at night, lost in your thoughts, and suddenly thought to yourself, why does my life feel so stuck? The same routine every day, waking up, going to work, school, or college, coming home exhausted, but not really knowing why. It's like you're on a treadmill, you're tired, you keep moving, but you're not actually getting anywhere. I've been there too. There was a point in my life when I felt so empty, not because I wasn't grateful, but because deep down, I knew there was something I hadn't chased yet. A small dream I'd been keeping buried for a long time. I remember sitting in my room, staring at my phone screen, scrolling aimlessly. Then, out of nowhere, I saw a friend post a small product they were selling on their social media account. And for some reason, that made my mind start turning. If they can do it, why can't I try? But you know what came to my mind right after that? Fear. Fear of failing, fear of being laughed at, fear that my little dream would just become a joke. It was like this tiny voice whispering, "Don't bother. You're nobody. You can't do it." But at the same time, there was another side of me that said, "You won't know until you try." And that's where it all started. With the bare minimum, not just money, but courage as thin as paper, I decided to take the first step. It wasn't something big. It wasn't something that made me rich overnight. But it was something that gave me peace. I started my small business. I didn't know what would happen next. I just knew one thing. I was tired of feeling stuck, and I wanted to give myself a chance to change. So in this post, I want to talk to you about how starting a small business changed my life. And maybe it can change yours too. No matter how small the idea, no matter how scared you are right now, I'm here to share my story and walk you through that self-doubt. Who knows? Maybe this story can be the small push you need to start something you've always thought was impossible. Because if I could start from nothing, you can too. Let's dive into the story. If this is the kind of topic you've been searching for, listen closely. We're gonna deep dive together. It's me, here with Stories Before Bed, keeping you company with a story I hope truly means something. I still remember the first day I decided to start my small business. There was no fanfare, no big announcement on social media. No one knew, except me. I sat at my messy desk, my laptop in front of me, and my thoughts swirling like a storm. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have a business background, I didn't know how to sell, and I definitely didn't have a big budget. But I had one thing, a small idea that wouldn't leave my head. At that moment, I thought, where do I even start? Because honestly, the first step is always the hardest. And you know what I did? I wrote everything down. My ideas, the product I wanted to sell, who I thought might buy it, even the smallest details like prices and the name of my business. I wrote it all in an old notebook I found in the corner of my closet. It wasn't some fancy business plan, but for me, it was the first step that made everything feel real. Maybe you're in the same spot right now. You have a small idea, but you're stuck thinking, I don't have the money. I don't know how to sell. Or, what if I fail? I get it. I've been there too. But one thing I realized back then was this. You don't have to wait for everything to be perfect to start. Small budget? That's okay. I started by making products myself with whatever tools I had at home. Don't know how to sell? I learned slowly by watching YouTube videos and reading free articles online. And you know what's most important? I decided not to focus on failure. I just focused on starting. That day, I made one product, took photos of it with my phone, edited them as best as I could, and uploaded them to my personal social media account. I didn't have a budget for ads, so I asked my friends to share it. It was a small step, but it felt like a giant leap. Because for the first time, I felt like I was moving forward. I wasn't just daydreaming anymore. I finally had something that felt uniquely mine. I want you to understand this. Starting a small business doesn't have to be big, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I often think of a small business as lighting a candle in the dark. The light might be small, but it's enough to show you the way. Sometimes all you need is the courage to light that first candle. The rest? You figure it out as you go. So if you have an idea, no matter how small, write it down right now. Don't wait for a big budget. Don't wait until you're ready. Because you know what? The best time to start something is now. You'll never know how far you can go if you don't take that first step. And trust me, that small step can change your life more than you realize. I won't lie to you. Starting a small business isn't as picture perfect as what you see on Instagram or TikTok. There are no aesthetic photos with big smiles, no perfect lighting in the corner of my workspace. What I had were days filled with exhaustion, confusion, and doubts that sometimes hit me out of nowhere. There were moments when I'd sit alone in my room, staring at sales numbers that wouldn't move, thinking, did I make a mistake? Should I have not started this at all? One of the biggest challenges I faced back then was the fear of failure. You know what that feels like? It's like this little voice in your head saying, see, no one's buying. Just stop. You'll never make it. Sometimes, that voice was louder than my own motivation. But at the same time, I'd remind myself why I started in the first place. I started because I wanted to escape the feeling of being stuck. I started because I had a small dream I wanted to make real. And during moments like that, I learned something. You can't beat fear by staying still. The only way to silence that voice is to keep moving, no matter how small the steps are. Another challenge was time and energy. Back then, I still had a day job, so I could only work on my small business at night, after I was already exhausted. There were nights when I only got 2 hours of sleep because I had to finish orders, take product photos, or respond to messages from potential buyers. I was beyond tired, but you know what kept me going? Every time someone bought something from me, or even just asked, "Is this still available?" it felt like a tiny spark reigniting my energy. It was like someone was telling me, keep going, you're not alone. And don't get me wrong, challenges also came from the people around me. I'm sure you know how it feels when someone says, why bother with this small-time business? It's not going anywhere. I heard that a lot. Comments like that feel like a subtle slap that makes you want to quit. But in those moments, I realized one thing. Your dreams are yours, not theirs. You don't need anyone's permission to go after what you want. I learned to focus on one thing, my own path. Because if I quit just because of what other people said, I'd be letting myself down. And that's more painful than failing. I know maybe you're in this phase right now. You're facing challenges that make you doubt the small steps you've taken. But trust me, everyone you see who's successful today has been where you are. They've felt scared, tired, and ready to give up. The only difference is this: they didn't stop. They kept going, even if it was slow. And that's what kept me going too. Every time I felt like giving up, I'd tell myself, I've come this far. How can I stop now? Challenges will always be there, but it's through those challenges that I've learned so much about myself, about how I can be more patient, stronger, and more confident in myself. Because every challenge you overcome is proof that you can do it. Proof that you're not as weak as you thought you were. And that's worth more than anything else. You know, when I started this small business, I thought the only change I'd feel would be about money, like earning more, having extra spending cash, that kind of thing. But it turns out, this small business changed me in ways much deeper than that. The changes came slowly, like a sunrise creeping up until you suddenly realize, wow, my life feels different now. The first time I noticed a change was when I started feeling more confident. Before this, I often felt lost, like I didn't know where I was going in life. But when I started creating something from scratch, something that was truly mine, something I could be proud of, I began to realize I had more ability than I thought. I used to be terrified of meeting new people. Even talking to potential buyers made my hands shake. But over time, I got used to it. I got braver, and I started thinking, wow, I can actually do this. I also learned about responsibility. This small business taught me how to be disciplined and consistent. I used to be the type of person who gave up easily. If something didn't go as planned, I'd immediately want to quit. But now, it's different. This business taught me that nothing happens instantly. If you want something, you have to work hard for it, even if the results don't show up right away. I've become more patient, better at managing my time, and more understanding of what it means to fight for something you believe in. Another thing that makes this small business special is how it changed my view on money. I used to think money was just about paychecks, savings, and spending. But when I started this business, I began to understand the value of every penny I earned. When someone made a payment for one of my products, I didn't just see a number. I saw trust. That trust made me more careful, more thoughtful about saving, managing, and reinvesting money so my small business could keep going. But above all, the biggest change I've felt is how I view life. This small business taught me that life isn't about waiting for big moments or instant success. Life is about enjoying the process, about every small step you take every day. I've learned that failure isn't the end, it's just part of the journey. I've learned that you don't need massive success to feel happy. Sometimes happiness is as simple as seeing someone use your product for the first time, or receiving a quick message from a customer saying, "Thank you, your product is amazing." And you know what I'm most grateful for? I've come to understand the meaning of courage. The courage to start from zero, the courage to fail, and the courage to get back up when things don't go as planned. Because this small business isn't just about money or success. It's about how I've grown into a stronger version of myself. If you ask me, do you regret starting this small business? My answer is no. Not at all. In fact, I feel like if I hadn't started back then, I wouldn't be the person I am now. Because in every product I create, in every day I go through, I see a version of myself that keeps learning, keeps moving forward, and keeps fighting. And that's something I would never trade for anything. I want you to understand this. A small business might not make you rich overnight, but what you gain from it, confidence, growth, courage, that's worth more than any number in your bank account. Because the most important changes in your life don't come from big successes. They come from the small steps you take every single day. I want you to stop for a second, take a deep breath, and really listen to this. Do you know what stops most people from ever starting? It's not because they don't have ideas, and it's not because they don't have money. It's because they're scared. Scared of failing. Scared of being laughed at. Scared that their small steps will look silly to other people. But you know what hurts more than failing? Regret. Regret for never giving yourself a chance to try. I've learned one important thing from this journey. No one knows how things will turn out until you start. No one can predict if your small business will succeed or not. But one thing's for sure. You're not going anywhere if you just stay in place. When I started my small business, I was scared too. But one sentence kept playing in my head. If I fail, at least I'll know I tried. And if I succeed, that'll be a story I can be proud of. And that's what kept me going. Because I realized that no effort is ever wasted. Every small step you take today, even if you don't see the results right away, is a step that can change your life. You don't have to start with something perfect. You don't have to have all the answers right now. Maybe your product is simple. Maybe what you're selling is tiny. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. Even the big companies you see today all started from zero. They started with one small idea. They started with someone brave enough to say, I'm going to try. So if you're waiting for the right time, let me tell you this. The right time doesn't exist. The time you have is now. Don't wait until you feel ready, because you'll never feel 100% ready. Just start. No matter how small your step is today, it's a step that means more than just sitting around and waiting. I want you to grab a piece of paper or open your notes app right now. Write down just one thing you can start today. Maybe it's writing down your business idea. Maybe it's researching a product. Or maybe it's reaching out to a friend to talk about your plan. It's a small step, but it's the first step. Because I promise you, when you take that first step, something inside you will change. You'll feel braver, more alive, and closer to your dream. I want you to remember one last thing. No effort is too small. No dream is too simple. If it matters to you, if it makes your heart light up again, pursue it. Other people might not understand it right now, but this is your life. This is your dream. And you deserve to give yourself a chance to change. So starting today, stop doubting yourself. Stop worrying about what other people will say. Focus on one thing: how you can move forward, no matter how small the step is. Because you know what? The small business you start today could become the big story you're proud of tomorrow. And you'll never know unless you start now. Thank you for hanging out with me and listening to my story. If you've got a little dream you've been wanting to start, I hope this story gives you the push you need. See you in the next bedtime story. Good night, and may your dreams tonight help you wake up with new energy in the morning. Bye.